Hello, this is Tom Ryan, and you're just in time for True Ghost Stories on W Rock, Rock on Radio. You're at the right place at the right time if you want to hear some amazing ghost stories and paranormal experiences. So grab yourself a drink, tuck yourselves in, and get comfortable. But get ready to face your fears. We are True Ghost Stories, and we are calling out all ghosts. Come out, come out, come out of your homes. Come out from wherever you may roam. Hello, listeners and chatters. Thanks for being with us tonight. We here at True Ghost Stories would like to add some substance to our show, more questions and answers, more stories and research. The only way the world is going to know the truth is if we find the truth. And we're not alone. There are far too many witnesses out there with stories to tell, and it's our job to share them. True Ghost Stories approach is open-minded. We care not only about the living, but for the spiritual world as well. And maybe through our journeys, we could figure out why they're here and what they want from us. Or perhaps we can even help a soul cross over. We're True Ghost Stories, and we like to think outside the box. Once again, I'm Tom Ryan. I'm one of the hosts of True Ghost Stories, and I am joined here tonight with the magnificent Mr. Adam Ginsberg.
How are you, my friend?
Hey, buddy. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. I had a tremendous weekend, and something that I've been waiting for a long time, I didn't think would ever happen, finally happened this weekend.
You...
I met the comedian from The Watchmen this weekend. You were absolutely fantastic.
Thanks, man.
Coming out to support Immortal Con and busting out an incredible cosplay that was beyond words. Beyond words. It is stellar.
I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
That. Yes, we got to hang out a little bit this weekend, which was a lot of fun, and Immortal Con was a great success. And if you were listening to last week's show, you know that Immortal Con was established to raise some funds for breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, you guys did pretty good.
Yep,
and
it was so far so good. We've got some funds we'll be sending over to Stony Brook Cancer Research Center. And there's even some things going on where others have said, hey, I'd like to possibly help out or whatever. And so we're expecting to really be able to fulfill our mission, which is great.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You guys rocked it this weekend. I had such a blast out there. And, for anyone listening, there's going to be another Immortal Con next year. I believe it's in September. So look out for that because we'll be talking about it. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Adam, we have a guest on tonight that has dabbled in the fields that we dabble in, acting and producing.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight because we've got an actor, we've got a producer, we've got somebody who's been doing this for quite a while, and he's a gentleman with some ghost stories for us, Tom.
Yes, indeed. And I would like to introduce the audience to Mr. Scott Valentine. Scott is located in California, LA, I believe. And Scott, welcome to the show tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Ginsberg. How kind of you to allow me into your hallowed halls.
No problem.
You're very welcome.
No problem. This is Tom, and
sorry, Tom.
That's okay. That's okay. No problem.
You can kick my ass when you see me, okay?
That's all right. It's sexy voices are very easy to get mixed up.
If you're this sexy just as you sound, I imagine in person it'll be overwhelming, you know?
Wow. Well, Scott, welcome to the show, and why don't we start? We usually start the show by allowing our guests to tell listeners a little bit about who they are, maybe outside of your paranormal experience, and then kind of bring us up to speed on the story that you'd like to share with us.
Sure. Well, I guess you could say I am an actor, as you both have the affliction as well. But I kind of hung up the acting spurs years ago. In Hollywood, there's at a certain time you go to acting jail, or you go to directing jail, or writing jail. And I went to acting jail, so I started producing, and then from producing got into investment banking. Have been focused primarily in renewable and sustainable energy for about a decade, but got back into the entertainment sector about a year ago. It's how I met one of the producers of your show, the lovely Ms. Emily. and
Okay.
has led me here to this sort of varied and wild and wacky path that we call life. I want to be careful not going too in depth, because then it's a little bit narcissistic and egotistical. But it's been a wonderful ride. But Sherry and I were talking about her show, the True Ghost Story show, and about ghost experiences. And I said, well, I've had that happen. I've had a few ghost experiences. And I don't even know if, ghost does it justice calling somebody a ghost. I think they're, in my humble, very naive opinion, that they're just souls that haven't completely crossed over. They've exited the vessel, but there's still the spirit remains, and for some reason has some unfinished business here. And that's kind of what happened to me when I lived in. It happened to me actually when I lived in Saratoga Springs, New York. That's where I grew up, upstate New York. That's where the oldest thoroughbred track in the nation is. And they have there's a TV show on Sci-Fi where they go and film paranormal experiences, and they have filmed one of the buildings that I had experiences in. Grew up in Saratoga, but then moved to Midwood, Brooklyn in my teens. And then from Midwood, Brooklyn into Manhattan, lived in Chelsea for a while. Started dating a gal who lived in the West Village, and moved in with her. Now, if you know New York at all, you'll understand this, and for your listeners that don't know New York, I'll give a better explanation. Manhattan, as you look at it, it's almost like a slanted, not parallelogram, a slanted square, so to speak. Manhattan and Canal Street, Wall Street, the whole financial district is way on the bottom part of the island of Manhattan.
Right.
A little bit to the west is Hudson River, and you go up the Hudson slightly, and that's where all the shipping ports and where the docks are, and have been for not decades, but centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And way back in the late 1700s, early 1800s, a lot of the commodities that were shipped in and out of Manhattan were loaded or unloaded on that lower southern west portion of Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
Along the West Side Highway, there were homes there. There were many businesses within the next block, and the next block over is Greenwich Street. In Greenwich Street, there were many apartment buildings that were built in the late 1700s, early 1800s that still exist today. Although they've been rehabbed, the foundation and the structures are the same. And it is believed a lot of folks that worked on the ships that had upper management level positions, shall we say, resided in those apartments or in those homes along Greenwich Street there. So I moved in on Greenwich Street between Perry and Charles with my girlfriend. It was a beautiful, let's call it a grandiose studio apartment. There was a bedroom area over there,
Mm-hmm.
kitchen area over here, a living room area over here, and with a separate bath tucked away over there. And I'm sure that gives a beautiful picture for your listeners, geographically speaking. Here, I'll write on the computer, and your listeners can follow along to understand the geography of the apartment. No, I'm kidding. Met this gal. It was actually one of the first films I ever got coming out of acting school. We were working on the film together. It was hot and heavy, fast and furious with the two of us immediately. And that was in about June of 1980. 1980. Yeah, wow, I'm aging myself. So by October, November, I had finally wiggled my way into moving into her apartment, this condo. And it was gorgeous, you guys. There was one wall, the western wall was all exposed brick with a working fireplace. It was all original hardwood floors that had been refinished in wood paneling that was real wood paneling. And, of course, with any amorous early 20s couple, we started making love. And, gosh golly, it was great.
It's a family show here, Russ. I just want to remind
And
you
I'm trying to keep it very
before the story
G-rated,
goes any
okay,
further.
I'm
That is
choosing
why
my
they
words
crank up the
very
music.
carefully.
Yeah, to cue the music, right?
Yeah, right.
What's that? No, not that sax. We don't want the sax. That's bad. That sounds like it's one of those erotic thrillers. I was in plenty of those, and they were neither erotic or thrilling.
So are you setting us? Are you really telling us that you had your paranormal experience during sex?
Yes.
Please
This is
continue.
Wow.
Please continue.
And it's not, and mind you, by the time I moved in with the gal, it was probably late October, early November, right around this time of year, getting chilly. And when we would make love over in now mind you, this was a grandiose studio apartment. We all know is essentially one room, but there was a bedroom area over to the side over there that was big enough to have a full-size bed and a dresser, and that was it. And there was no door separating it from the living room, kitchen, reading area. An archway, but no door. And when we would make love in this bed over there, occasionally we would hear a bang bang, and wondering, what the heck is that bang bang? What is going on? What's happening? And we couldn't figure it out. Didn't know what the heck it was. And we thought maybe the bed was shimmying on the wood floor. Maybe the floorboards were cracking or something. We didn't really know. So then one night, my girlfriend, and I'm living at this time, and now we're into mid-December. And these sounds we've heard somewhat. I'm in the apartment by myself. I'm getting ready to go jog. And every day before I jogged, I would do some, as anybody I imagine running for exercise and pleasure. You do some stretches, you do some lunges, you do some exercises to try to get your blood flowing and get, your lungs open so you can have a better oxygen capacity and get more, more oxygen, more blood, more run, more fun. And as I'm doing lunges and thrusting my arms out to the side, I'm inhaling, and as I lunge forward, I go, and I step back up and go, and lunge and go, and all of a sudden, right next to me, I hear somebody else in a higher pitched voice go, whew, whew, and I feel somebody blowing air on the left side of my face, on my ear, and on my neck. And I feel somebody right there. There is somebody right there.
What time of the day was this, Scott?
Pardon me?
What time of the day was this?
This was probably at about 8 o'clock at night.
Okay.
So it's dark out. It's mid-December. It's very cold outside. So all the windows are shut. The flume on the chimney is shut. There's no breeze coming through. And I hear this, and somebody blowing on me. And we've all felt it. We've all been fortunate enough, hopefully, to have somebody blow in your ear in a very sort of come-hither way. And it certainly felt like somebody blowing in my ear, not in a come-hither way, but more so, hey, I'm here. And I'm starting to get goosebumps, and I'm starting to get scared because I can feel this other person right there. And then all of a sudden there was a knock on the door. Scared the living bejesus out of me. I did the, oh! And I go and answer the door, and it's a friend of my girlfriend's. And I tried to explain to her, oh, you wouldn't believe there was just somebody here. There was somebody. Blah, 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 blah. And she was like, yeah, right, sure, okay. Your honey's not here. I'm leaving, and I'll tell her I stopped by. So, totally freaked out, I go jogging. My girlfriend comes home that night. I tell her what happened. She's like, oh my God. So the next day we go to make love, and we're making love. We're in the bed, over in the bed area, and the slight bang that I told you about, just a boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we're making love, there's this bang, 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 bang. And we get up, and somebody is in the kitchen opening and shutting the cupboard doors as if they're extremely pissed off and going bang, 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 and it's that loud. It's not a little titter. It's that loud, and we both go over and look, and there's nobody there. There's nobody in the kitchen, and it's definitely, we know the sound. Everybody, you live in your apartment, your home, your condo long enough, you know the sound of your kitchen cabinets when they close. And we knew these were our kitchen cabinets. So we're wondering, what in God's name, what's going on? Maybe it's the crazy gay guys next door, and they're listening to their disco, and they're really going wild. Couldn't figure it out. So then, about within a week's time, we're making love yet again. Yes, we were young.
Yeah, lucky you.
Yeah, man, that's a lot of activities.
Yeah.
Certain anatomical reactions that were much more fervent at 21
obviously,
than they are at 57. So,
obviously, this is your girlfriend and not your wife.
So,
Welcome
about
to
a
True
week
Ghost
later,
Stories.
we're making love again, and we had a rocking chair in front of the fireplace. And all of a sudden, imagine a rocking chair on a wood floor. We're hearing that going, and we both stop in the middle of Enflagrata. We stop in the middle, and we crane our heads around the little archway and look in the living room next to the fireplace, and the rocking chair is rocking back and forth, back and forth.
So you
back
saw
and
that?
forth. Pardon me?
You saw that with your own eyes.
We saw it.
How long
We
did
not
it
only
maintain?
heard it.
How long did it maintain the rock?
For at least another 2 or 3 minutes.
Wow.
Totally freaked us out.
How old was this building or this apartment, in your guesstimation?
Well, we went back, and after this happened, we contacted a medium. And the medium came over, and she, it was a woman, and she said, I definitely feel a presence. There's definitely another energy here. Can I do a little research? Of course, please help us. What energy? Who? What? So she had gone and found out that ship's captains and ship's first mate and sort of the upper echelon of the shipping industry at the time resided in these buildings right on Greenwich Street between Perry and Charles. I believe the building was built around 1817, 1820, that far back. And that was part of the research that the medium had done. Then she did further research and found out that ship's captains kept women typically in these apartments. And they would pull into port, have their, then unloading ships was a much more laborious and lengthy process than it is today. So however long they were in port, he would come into port, he'd be back with his lady, they'd make love, they'd get jiggy, things were all good and happy. And it's almost like that song Brandy. Remember that by
Yes.
You're a fine girl.
Yeah, we're aging
Dr. Hook.
ourselves. But
Yeah.
like that song, and the medium said that it was typical for ship's captains to keep their kept women in these apartments, and when they would leave, they would be forlorn and miss their man. And then he'd come back after wherever his trip was, to the West Indies or to Asia or wherever it was at the time, or down to, Central America, or just even up to Washington, even up to San Francisco, but then come back and then be with a woman again. And this medium had surmised that the ship's captain had left and never came back. And that when I had met up with this gal, and then we became boyfriend and girlfriend, and then we fell very much in love with each other, that love was brought into this space again, and that this woman, who was the ship's captain's woman, kept woman, was envious that there was love again. And that was the reason for it.
How long did you live there, or how long were the two of you there?
The girlfriend
We
lived there, right?
lived there for about, the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let me think. I moved in right around, as I said, it was like October, November-ish, and I left the next year when I was going September 17th, 1981. That's when I got run over by a truck. I was run over and dragged by a truck
Oh God!
in New York, and I died and came back.
Right. I want to get to that, but I'm curious. She was in this apartment prior to you getting there, and did she stay there after you left? And was there activity, if that's the case, before and after you had lived there?
There was supposedly no activity before and no activity after. And when I had left it September 17th, when the accident occurred, we were not doing well. You know, I was still feeling a little bit bound, as most young men will when you're dating a woman at that age, and she says, let's put a ring on the finger. And I was like, I'm 21 or 23, whatever I was. I'm footloose, fancy free. There's a lot of flowers out there to smell. I want to go smell more flowers.
Wow, this whole conversation, by the way, has been so pun-laden. I am really...
I agree.
Fighting, and Sherry's probably giggling, fighting the other side of my brain through this program. This is really interesting. You know, you had an experience which I want to get into, which was the...
Now, here, let me, Adam, to further on your question, was there any activity before? The gal that I started dating, she had claimed to be a lesbian prior to meeting me, and and so I had said to the medium, well, there was, you know, we're subleasing, we're leasing this condo from another couple and she said, yeah, but they're an older couple and they're not passionate like you guys. You guys are young and passionate. And I said, well, but you know, the gal here, she was with a lot of women before, and she said it wasn't what didn't butter the other woman's bread. What made her forlorn and miss her man was seeing a woman with another man. And it continued. When we made love, there were times we made love and the cupboards would just go kabang, 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 and we'd be like, fuck it, let her get pissed off, we're going to finish this. I'm sorry, I just used the F word. I hope you have a delay. I apologize.
Wow. You know, I'm almost wondering if it wasn't such magnificent lovemaking that you just weren't rocking the house, my friend.
Well, you know, we thought that at times, but here's a building that was, over at that time, you know, a century and 8 decades old or 7 decades old?
Yeah.
And... You know, and as much as people laugh about California with earthquakes, New York gets its own earthquakes. Look at the fault running up Park Avenue where they've got all those railroad tracks. So,
did you ever have any sort of paranormal experience of any type in your life prior to this event starting to take place? And how often did it take place over that course of that year? Was this because you sound like when you're saying that, you know, we're not going to stop, you know, let her get mad. It sounds like the both of you got pretty comfortable with the happenings that were taking place. So I'm really curious. Did this become like a regular part of your lives while there?
Yes, it did. Yes, and there were times where we'd be in the bed and we'd go, okay, look now, and we'd look over at the rocking chair and it would be rocking.
Huh.
Now there
Scott,
were
have you ever had a paranormal experience when you weren't having sex? Because I'm thinking that maybe
my ex-wife isn't hearing this and my girlfriend isn't hearing it.
Maybe you just didn't give her as much credit as she was due, and you think that...
Oh God! Oh my God! Do not keep a copy of this interview, okay? Damn it!
This is great.
Yes, and growing up in Saratoga Springs, New York, where I grew up, there is, if you go back in some of these, whatever the show was on Sci-Fi Channel where they go and they investigate paranormal experiences, a place that they went was the Canfield Casino. In the Canfield Casino on the 3rd floor, there is some energy, some spirit, some person that resides up there that has unfinished business. And if you go to this casino, which Saratoga Springs, for your listeners' sake, it has the oldest thoroughbred track in the nation. In the Victorian era, it was considered sort of the Las Vegas or the Atlantic City, the place to go and have fun and gamble and party and all that. There is a belief that whoever this person is up there on the 3rd floor of the casino, that once again, that was somebody that came to town for the horse meets or the ballet, and her guy left, or whoever her guy was, sort of let her go, and they were pictures taken where it looked like a younger woman in a dress. There was another, and again in Saratoga Springs, you can look it up online if you're in front of your computer. There's an artist retreat, and it's called the Yaddo, Yaddo, and it's only about 8 blocks away from where I grew up. And as children, we would go there and play a lot. And this was a retreat that the gentleman that had the house, Spencer Trask, I believe his name was, had 3 daughters, but all of the children died at this beautiful, what is now a retreat. It was one of the most beautiful houses in North America at the time. Some of the windows in it, the stained glass windows, were original windows done by Tiffany himself, when he was a guy working out of, metaphorically speaking, like out of his garage and making stuff to get by, you know. Right. And these grounds of the Yaddo have several homes on it. So now artists that are, whether you're a writer, a painter, a lyricist, a sculptor, you can go and be in, what is it called, in where they put you up for free and you stay for a season.
Like a commune?
A hostel or something.
Commune?
In I can't think of the word, dagnabbit. Maybe hopefully one of your listeners will pop in for you guys and say what it's called. But it's where you go. You pay nothing. They feed you. They house you, and you just go and work on your whatever it is. Now, supposedly Leonard Bernstein had spent time there in working in composing music. Edgar Allan Poe had spent time there and had written. This place goes back, almost a century in its existence. Mm. And when being there at the Yaddo, there are other times when we all know, and I think people ignore it. I think we've become we have to be so, whatever, appear like we've got our shit together, or very, very programmed, or very sort of monolithic in our perception of what's in front of us. But there are times that we can actually communicate with each other telepathically, and we do it all the time. You walk into a room as a guy, and you look across the room, and there's a cute girl, and your eyes catch her eyes, and her eyes catch yours, and there's an unwritten, unspoken exchange that happens there. And I think if you nurture that and let that grow, that you'll be able to continue to be able to communicate in unspoken manners, unwritten manners, with other folks, that we have this telepathic being, this telepathic ability. And I think folks, I don't know what it is, and maybe you guys can answer because you're much better versed at this. I don't know why some spirits, some souls, whatever it is, when you exit that vessel and you're going, whatever the trip is, once we exit this vessel and our soul or our spirit goes on to whatever that next existence is, and pick your religion to determine what you think where we go after. But there are truly folks that don't completely cross over, and they need to stay and finish business. I produced a TV show once, and it was this woman who could just be walking into a store, and there were people standing there talking, screaming. People that had died had left this vessel, but hadn't crossed over completely spiritually or soul-wise, and she had this gift to hear them and talk to them. And one time, when she first realized it, she was in a grocery store in line, and there was a guy trying to talk to this other woman, going, and the woman was like, completely ignore him as if he wasn't there. And she looked and couldn't believe that this woman could ignore this gentleman as he was just imploring this woman fervently. And a guy a few other aisles to the left on the opposite side said, "You see him, don't you?" to her. She said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "You see him, you hear him." She said, "Yes." "Doesn't everybody? Don't you?" And he said, "No, not everybody does. We have, and there are some people that have this ability to see, we can't call them humans, but folks, spirits, souls that haven't crossed over." Mm-hmm. And we could walk anywhere, and we could just walk into a department store, down the street, to a park, to a firehouse, and she could go and start going, "Oh, and here's your father. He's here, and he's trying to talk to you." And she had never met these people, and she could start rattling off very specific personal traits, characteristics, aspects of the relationship that this person had with the other person that hadn't crossed over yet. And for some reason, she has this ability. This gal's still alive. She lives in Southern California. She's married. She's got little kids. And she said at first she thought it was neat. Now it's a burden. It's a pain in the ass. Why don't just finish your business and go on to the next life?
Now, Scott, what do you think? I mean, when we talk about unfinished business, I mean, when you think in the grand scheme of things, it kind of sounds silly. What is it that they have that did they not tell someone that they loved them? Did they not apologize to someone that they felt they needed to apologize to?
Tommy, it's a vast array. I mean, look at your own relationships with your mother, your father, your siblings, somebody within that gamut. You have, if they were all to die right now today, I'm sure there's at least one out of the 10 that you'd go to and, God, I just wanted to tell you this one last story, or I wanted to finish, or you took my shot. You had my, there's some people that, look at how many people right now living in our daily lives that want to hold on to things from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel that that's what they identify themselves by, and that's who they are. And I think even after, the blood stops pumping, the heart stops beating, that they think, well, you know how you say there's somebody that they always want to grind an axe? I think it's those people that never felt they completed an issue and never felt that they had finished, never felt. It's really, come on, you're an actor. Adam's an actor. How many actors do you work with? And they say, can I have one more take? Just one more. Wait, can we do it again? Let's just do it again.
Yeah.
It's like, and I've got friends that are writers, friends that are painters, and sometimes they're like, just one more pass, one more stroke. No, at some point you got to let it go. Let it go, walk away, be present,
Right.
Move on, go down the road. And I think these are folks that just, even in their, what we'll call our living life, never had the ability to move on.
I could kind of sense and buy into that. I really can. But at the same side, I think about sheer numbers. Okay, because most people, I would imagine, aren't ready to go. Most people, especially in an accident situation, young people, etc. And it just, in my head, it just would feel like, wow, we would literally be so overcrowded with spirits around us that it would blow a medium's mind. I think if it really was down to just unfinished business, or hey, this is, I mean, I'm speculating, of course, but I would imagine we're swimming in spirits over the history of mankind.
Yeah. I mean, and the sheer numbers of humanity, and you look at how many shrinks there are. Look at how many people that have unresolved issues presently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, and look, I got to be very careful what I'm going to say, Adam, because I could insult some folks.
Mm.
We have Christians, we have folks that practice a Buddhist lifestyle, we have folks that practice a Taoist lifestyle, we have folks that practice Judaism, folks that practice, being Muslim. They all have an aspect of when you are complete with this vessel, you go to here. Right? It's everything
Mm-hmm.
is you go to.
Mm-hmm.
And pick your religion, pick your practice, or pick, if you're an atheist. Atheist, we end. This is it. Poof, we're dust after. But with all the folks with all their religious aspects, if you're so certain that there is that afterlife that your religion subscribes to, then let this vessel go and go there. Go.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hold on.
Well, I mean, and that also brings into play, people that may not be religious. I mean, what are their chances of transitioning into the afterlife without any snags?
That makes me think, or all the religions, we're just kidding ourselves and comforting ourselves with some subscribed set of rules, because the guy who's the atheist, he goes the same place I go if I'm a Christian, or if I'm a... So, I don't know. The thing is, the older I get, the grayer I get, the more I know I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have no idea. In as much as, let's go back to the apartment on Greenwich Street between Perry and Charles, there was somebody in that room. I felt somebody blowing on my, literally inches away from my ear, my neck.
So what you're telling us, what you're telling us, Scott, is from someone that is, because you don't come across as someone that's overly religious or a guy that has a fanatical aspect of faith where they might believe some outrageous stuff. You sound like you're pretty down to earth. So, from these experiences that you've had, have these convinced you that ghosts do indeed exist, and that, perhaps there is more to life after death than just heaven or hell?
Tommy, who knows? Do you know what I mean? I mean, I grew up Catholic, and everything was like, you do this, you say these prayers, you do the 5, Our Fathers, the 7 Hail Marys, the act of contrition, and boom, you're in. You go past purgatory and you're to heaven.
Right.
Boom, you're in.
And I don't mean to belittle anybody's religion. If that gives you faith, if that gives you comfort, if that allows you to continue to live, God love you. Or, Buddha love you. Whatever.
Right.
If it works for you. Having died, and there's a lot of people, a lot of your listeners, there's a lot of folks that die and we come back. I died. I came back.
Well, let's get into that. Let's get into that a little bit, because I think that has a lot to do with.
But to answer your question, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. I don't. I don't. And I wish I could say, yeah, I've embraced it. When my final moments come, I have no effing idea. And when my final moments come, I'm going to be digging and scraping and screaming and going, no, I don't want to go. I'm having a great time with my boys. I'm having a great time with my honey. Look, and I'm doing work that I love. I don't want to leave.
That's right.
So, and you would think, somehow, I don't know. And the funny thing is, the more we become advanced technologically as humans, and it's so... The thing that saddens me tremendously is how we fight each other, from neighbor to neighbor, to city to city, to state to country, how we fight each other. When are we all going to get together and realize we're in the same friggin' boat? We all want the same thing. We all want to be loved, we all want to be fed, and we all want to laugh. And regardless whether you're Russian or Japanese or African or Brazilian or whatever, or American, I really think all humans you want to be loved, you want to be held, you want to laugh, and you want to eat some good food.
And you want to have some apartment shaking sex too.
Hey.
That was a fantastic ghost story.
So, and we all want that. So the more we develop technology that it goes beyond our solar system, beyond our galaxy, beyond other galaxies, and we're finding similar metallurgical and similar elemental properties that could compose the same carbonaceous-based material of which life comes from. Is this a way station? Are we all somebody's experiment? I've talked with the Bible scholars, and there is a certain belief that this is all Jesus's bad dream. Really? So when do we wake up and get to the whipped cream and milk and honey? Okay, because Jesus, wake up. And these are from Bible scholars. I've heard some. So the more I know is I don't know, and I have to be present. I've got to not be an asshole. I've got to treat people lovingly and kindly, and don't let my little petulant, egotistical, narcissistic gremlin come out of me and go, and it's unfortunate. Younger, at times I was a complete asshole, complete jerk. Now older, my son, he did something with a car today. My 16-year-old, he just left the car. It's like, it's a car. Okay, we'll get it fixed, whatever. And not like don't crash the car, but what's really important? What's important is that my 4 boys know that I love them.
Well, tell us, because I'm sure that a lot of that, your awareness as you got older, had to do with this near-death experience you had. So why don't you tell us about that?
September 17th, 1981, 4:37 in the afternoon, corner of 42nd and 8th Avenue. I'm heading 8th Avenue on a bicycle. There's a truck to my right. There's a young Hispanic woman crossing the street with a baby in a stroller and a little girl on her left hand, and she's going from the east side of 8th Avenue to the west side of 8th Avenue. As she gets in front of the truck that's to my right, the jerk driving the truck pops the clutch to make it jerk forward, I believe with the intention to scare her. Now, we've never had a conversation since, but it's certainly, having worked on road construction for numerous times, you know where the clutch is and you know where the brake is, you know what you're doing behind the wheel.
Right.
And this guy popped the clutch. The little girl screamed. The mother screamed. And then the guys in the truck started laughing. And as they were, excuse me, one second, you guys. So as they scream, he and I exchange words, not pleasantries, ones that I won't share on your radio show right now. And it ended with me, going, F you. Not only you're a bigot, you're an idiot, and you're so pissed off you want to run over the whole world. Go ahead, just run the whole world over. And he said, I'll run you over. And remember, I said I was running, jogging, 8 miles a day, 2 times a week, 16 miles a day. And I was feeling pretty 23 years old. You know, at 23 and you're running like that, you think you're God's gift to the physical world. You think you're titanium coated and just you've got 100 jet fuel in you. And light turns green, I take off, and as I get between 42nd and 43rd, he rams me from behind, flips me up in the air, and the front tires run over me, and the back tires come up and wedge me between the ground and the tire, and he keeps driving, and he downshifts to try to get over me, and a guy who was standing on the sidewalk saw it or heard it and ran, jumped on the running board, and started punching the driver to get him to stop. He stopped. I'm under the truck. Cops come, ambulances come. The driver of the truck was arrested and went back to jail for attempted vehicular manslaughter. He was out on parole. He was drunk. And when I got to the hospital, and I didn't know it at the time, my left leg, my pelvis was in 32 pieces. My left femur was completely crushed, mince. And it was up behind my back, stuck in the middle of my back. And I was bleeding so profusely that I died. I flatlined and went out. And what I remember, and it's what I've heard from many other people that have had similar death experiences, it felt like a big, golden, like gooey pipe was just pulling me up, sort of like lifting me up. And I was falling up.
Explain that a little bit to me, Scott. You're saying like a golden gooey pipe was pulling you up. Did you feel like you? So are you saying when you say a pipe, or were you having the sensation that you were being sucked up through a pipe? And when you say
sucked,
gooey,
it was almost lifted up, and like this thing that was connected to my solar plexus. I don't know if do you have children?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Adam, you got kids?
Yes.
And people used to say to me, when I had kids, I said, it's the best. It's the best. It's better than any woman I've ever been in love with. It's better than the love I've experienced with my parents or my siblings. It's as if I've got this huge, like, titanium-coated cord going from my solar plexus to my children's solar plexus. That's how connected I feel to them. Mm-hmm. It was the same, like, thing connected to not my heart, my soul, right here, my solar plexus. And it was just like pulling me up, and it was like I was falling upwards towards the heavens. Okay. And my arms, legs were dangling behind me. There was no pain. It was very sort of almost, gooey and warm and comfortable. And then I look back down over my left shoulder and look back, and then I see myself on the table in the emergency room, and about, 8 to a dozen people just, around me and buzzing, and then them doing the paddles and going, clear, clear, and that stuff. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoosh, and then back in my body, back in extreme pain, and all the warm, soft gooiness was gone. And that was it.
When you were being pulled up, did you, this was while you were still in the street, or?
No, this is the ambulance had come and picked me up, and I was in the emergency room.
Okay, and did you at that point did you feel like you were able to see, or did you even look back or look down, or you just were focused on moving forward?
No, I was going up,
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally like, and it was this, bright amber colored gooey like chamber. It wasn't even like a hallway, and it just felt so no pain, just no weight. And that's when I looked back down over my left shoulder and looked back down and saw myself on the table in the emergency room.
Now, guys, sorry to stop you here. We actually had a guest on the last show who related a extremely similar situation, and
Right.
the only thing difference was it was a bright light, and there was nothing about gooiness of any kind. It was more. It wasn't. It sounded more like a tunnel, I think, is what she said, as opposed to a tube. But I could see
Right.
that being just language. But
Right.
very interesting because both had the same like snapped back and rushed back to the body type of sensation.
Oh, I mean, think about it. My pelvis was in 32 pieces.
Mm.
My left femur was, I have an artificial femur now. I have an artificial hip, and about a quarter of my pelvis is artificial.
Mm-hmm.
I was paralyzed from the waist down. I was in traction for almost 5 months.
Mm.
So I was pretty banged up. And it was such extreme pain. When you're high on pain, it was that like unbelievable pain.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden there's none. It's like bliss land. And it's right, like the other person said, it's like a tunnel. It's like a big tube. It's just, it was, in a weird way, it was almost like I was going back up in the fallopian tubes back to the uterus. It was just...
Wow.
Scott, what was your consciousness experiencing when you saw your body lying there? Was there an awareness of death? Was there an awareness of, this is my trip to the great unknown, or was it just something that seemed like a dream?
It all seemed like a dream. I mean, from the moment I got hit by the truck, it took on a dream-like quality. And I'm assuming, Tom, you've been in accidents, right?
Oh yeah.
Adam, and you know how all of a sudden when you're in an accident, or even when you're falling off a ladder at your house as you're hanging the Christmas trees on the eaves or whatever, and everything sort of goes. At least for me, I can't assume everybody has the same experience, but it suddenly becomes staccato, and it's not fluid, and there's like some things you see are close up, and other things are as if there's a 100 millimeter lens on the camera, and then there's a 18 millimeter lens on the camera, and it's these different angles and these different flashes back and forth. When I was going up from it was just the thing that I always come back to is how it was just pain free. I was suddenly out of pain. And then the looking, and it wasn't how some people I've heard that have had other near-death experiences, and they were saying, no, I'm not ready to go, I'm not going. And maybe those were deaths from illness that weren't so rapid,
Right.
As mine was from an instant traumatic situation. And I just, as I was going up and I looked over my shoulder and looked down, it was almost as if I was looking at a movie of somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that was me, but it didn't feel like me. And it had to be some correlation with when they put the paddles on and they did the boom and gave me the shot, the electrical whatever.
Right.
I think that's what pulled me back into my body. I believe that the death occurred because of maybe look, I'm not a doctor, I don't know, but I believe from the loss of blood. I had such a tremendous loss of blood that that maybe there was nothing for the heart to pump, or not enough, or whatever. I don't know.
Have these experiences changed your life forever, Scott? Or are you
my
kind?
next question.
Yeah, there you go. Or have you kind of?
Forever.
Yeah, it has.
Forever. Oh, forever. I mean, being being in some other sucky situation, sort of like being in divorce court or whatever, going, not as bad as being run over by a truck. This'll end. And at other times it's really You know, is that important? Is that material thing that important? Is that bunch of money that important? What's the most important thing is really our relationships with the other people near and dear and close to us.
Right.
And I don't even think I got it at that time, you guys. I was only 23 when that happened. I'm 57 now, and I, for a long time in thinking, and I'm very careful and very reluctant to say, well, that was God's lesson for me, or that was Jesus' lesson for me, or that was Buddha's lesson. I truly think we go through everything we do to learn something. If you're not learning something, then you're just sucking up space and wasting space.
Well,
right?
Sure.
But it has gotten to the point, and with children, you guys have children. I don't know how old yours are, but mine are in the 20s, except for the youngest one who's 16. And you realize, so they cracked the car up. That's not that important. He's safe.
Right.
So he got drunk with his buddies. Okay, at least he's safe and he came home. So he failed the 11th grade. He's got to go to summer school. Okay, it's not that bad.
Just give you some perspective a little bit.
Right.
So you got ripped off and lost $500,000. Okay, still have boys. Still have you. And it does give you sort of a conscious trampoline to bounce off of and go, it's not that bad. But as far as the whole, for me, and a lot of people I've talked to that have had similar, they died and came back experiences, they're like, well, I'm ready to go meet my maker. I'm very comfortable with it now. I'm not. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'd love to think, okay, like the one guy I was telling you, the Bible scholar, he's like, well, you just immediately go, and that's the Christ thing is to go there. Talk to a Buddhist guy, well, you keep coming back until your soul gets pure. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think I've finally gotten to the point where I've met, folks like your producer, Sherry. She's a wonderful human being. She's just a wonderful human being. I don't know who put me on her path to meet her, but whoever it is, I want to drink that experience in, and I want to take that experience.
Yeah.
When I was, at the time I was on television, it was back, God, I'm really aging myself, and I know I've said I'm 57, but it was at the time that there was basically 4 channels, not 3, but there were 4, CBS, ABC, NBC, and and the new Fox. And we had at times 42 million viewers watching the show. 42 million friggin' people.
Right.
I'm getting 6,000 to 10,000 fan letters a week, and all of that means nothing compared to. It really doesn't. It was so the reasons for and the reasons to get and all that is so. Compared to the richness of the relationship that I have with my boys and with my honey and with my very dear friends. And I think part of the accident and the death, maybe it is. Maybe it's all tied together because I don't want to be that woman on Greenwich Street still waiting for my honey to come back who was left with his ship,
Right. Scott, after this, life-changing, horrific experience, that happened early on in your life. Did you run into or did you ever note again in your life now after the near death and all that other paranormal experiences similar to or in any way that entered your life after that? And this is now we're beyond the apartment, and I'm just curious if somewhere in your life something else entered.
I think people that haven't completely crossed over that we call ghosts, or that society calls ghosts, and I continuously call them people that haven't crossed over completely.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can sense who's open or who's safe to come to, because there are times that you feel it, and you guys know you wouldn't be doing this show if you didn't know. There are times there is somebody who hasn't crossed over, and they're standing right there next to you because they feel safe. And it's almost like a child, not your child, but a child in a store that's lost and they don't know where mommy and daddy are, but they see you and they get it, and they know inside there's an inherent sense of, okay, this dude's safe. He'll save me. He'll protect me.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some of these spirits that haven't crossed over completely, and they want somebody to be the gal that I'd mentioned earlier. Remember the one in the grocery store and goes into the hardware store, and and people that haven't crossed over completely keep talking to her.
Right.
So, and I think it's all around us. And I think, unfortunately, the folks that we term as ghosts, it's almost like calling I'm part Irish, calling an Irishman a Mick. I see it as a derogatory term. I see it as these are folks that have unfinished emotional relationship business, and they want to complete it before they go to whatever that next stop is on the train.
Right. I think we have a caller. Is that the case, Sherry? We got somebody on the line?
Hello, caller?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we do.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes,
Hi.
who's this?
Joe?
How
Jeff?
are you, Joe? Welcome to True Ghost Stories.
Yes, thanks. I did have a question for Scott, but it wasn't a ghost one. It was about one of his movies.
Oh, okay.
Joe.
Do you remember? Hey, do you happen to remember the movie Dead Time Stories?
Oh yeah, bud. I've been invited to do a movie again with that. That was the first film I ever had a lead in, and the gentleman who wrote that and directed that became a very dear friend of mine, and still is. And he just asked me recently. He's doing a movie with Melissa Leo. Do you know Melissa Leo?
Oh yeah.
She won the Academy Award a couple of years ago, and we're going to do a movie together that he wrote and will direct. So I remember it well, Joseph.
I was asking because it's hard to find information on the movie for some reason, so you're the first person I found actually starring it. Well, if you can ask, what was the experience of that movie like?
It was crazy.
Uh-oh.
It was crazy. I had auditioned for the movie, and I didn't have my artificial parts put in yet, and I was getting around the city with a couple of canes.
Oh,
When I
wow.
went to audition, I hit the canes in the hallway and limped into the meeting. And the first thing out of the guy's mouth, Jeffrey Delman, who directed it, was, "What's wrong with your leg? What happened?" And I tried to give him some bullshit story like, "Oh, I fell out of a tree," and because I wanted to work. At the time that I got run over, I was literally on my way to my agents to pick either. I was offered a soap opera and I was offered a movie. And I was like, do we want to do the soap opera or do we want to do the movie? So I wanted to get back at it, and in a very, very, very hard way. And I had started auditioning in New York for other parts, and people kept saying, "We can't hire you. You're like a tinker toy. You're going to fall apart, break apart. We can't use you." And Jeff had the guts, he had the determination to hire me. We did the film. It was crazy shooting those scenes up in the mountain with the witches and all that. We shot those in the dead of December and January with sub-zero temperatures. Then it'd warm up enough to snow, and then it'd drop back down to zero. And it was one of the greatest experiences I ever had movie making. Because we all thought we were doing something special. We all thought we were doing something meaningful. We were a bunch of delusional kids actually playing pretend.
Yeah.
But it established wonderful relationships with wonderful people that now, 33 years later, I still are very, very dear friends.
Oh, wow. Are you surprised it has a cult following?
Very surprised, And Joe, why don't you, when you're done with the call, leave your email address with the producer, and I'll give it to Jeff, and he'll send you to where I believe they have a website, and there's talk about they're going to make another one of them like that. So maybe your timing was good.
Awesome.
Hey, Joe, thanks for
that's-
calling in, and asking Scott a little bit about Dead Time Story, because if anybody wants to, look into Scott's work, you can check him out on IMDb for sure. He's got a long list of credits there. I'm checking him out right now. Scott, you were on Murder, She Wrote?
I tell you, one of the finest people to ever work for was Angela Lansbury.
Really?
Yeah, I used to live right down the street from her too, and she's a mensch. She's a top-notch person, very talented. She owned the show and she produced it. And if you guest starred on the show, she paid you very well. It was her money coming out of her pocket, and she paid all the guest actors extremely well. She treated all the cast, all the crew. Just she is a truly quality individual. Yeah, just I cannot say enough good things about her. She's just a good, very good person. And also, living a couple doors down from her, she was great with my kids. You're great with my kids. You're good. You're good. You treat my kids
Yeah.
Right.
And she'd be, they can come back in the yard. Let them go play. Go right ahead. Yeah, they're fine. She's just a very sweet lady.
Very nice. Scott, where do you think the paranormal world is going from here? I mean, we've got tons of ghost stories on TV. Obviously, we got the radio show here. Do you think that we're ever going to come to a point where, it's accepted that the paranormal is something that exists among us, or, I mean, this is a big thing that me and Adam always discuss, and this is
unequivocal yes, Tommy. Unequivocal yes.
You think so?
Yeah. Well, look. Let's take an example just in our lifetime, in our own history and our awareness. Remember, we used to think. Remember, there were folks who used to think we were the middle of the solar system. We were the middle of the universe, right?
Right.
But we've learned we're not the middle of the universe. We learned we're not the middle of the solar system, and we have actual tangible proof to verify that.
So you think that science will catch up with the paranormal?
Yes, I do. Because the more, look at the equipment you guys are using right now to broadcast this compared to 30 years ago, compared to 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So the more sensitive and the more astute equipment becomes to merge the technological with the ooey-gooeyness of humanity and animals and the reading of that, I think it's only the more we become aware of it, the more people will acknowledge and document these instances, and the more that we'll get to the point where it goes from, Evie-sheeby and sort of, woo-woo-y to something legitimate and something that can be truly perceived through the proper channels and the proper communication. Now, whether that's in our lifetime or not, I don't know.
Right.
But it will happen. I mean, look at the Transformer thing on, what was the TV show growing up? Star Trek, how they transform, the molecular retransformation and reassembling.
Yeah.
Right? They're doing that. They're doing it now on a very small scale and being able to molecularly disassemble something here and reassemble it over there. So it's just, who knows where it's going to come from, but it will come. It will.
That's going to be absolutely society changing if it ever gets that far, because my imagination takes it to, if we get that far, eventually we get to the point where we're actually communicating. And that's just a complete Pandora's box right there.
Well, Adam, everybody's going to say I'm crazy. You ready for why I think it will happen?
Sure.
Okay.
Because right now everybody is busy. North Korea going after South Korea, and America going after Russia, and Russia China, and then all the different factions. I'm trying to stay away from politically sensitive areas where somebody will call in and say, "What is he crazy? What is he? He's rooting for the Sandinistas." But more and more, people are lobbing grenades over the fence at each other. What are we going to do? What are we going to do when, like War of the Worlds, what are we going to do when another form of intelligence comes here from another ship, from another vessel out in our galaxy? What are we going to do? Are we going to keep lobbing grenades at each other, or are we going to band together and go, you know what, we all really want to just be loved, hugged, kissed, and da-da-da, and we sort of need to pool our resources because we got these guys coming from planet Xenon 2, or whatever it is. And whether that's 100 years or 50 years, look at all, and you guys probably have much more of a beat on this than I do, look at all the other experiences that people are having. Normal, credible, intelligent, well-heeled, working individuals that are saying, I saw these lights, I had this experience, this person came, and the more that it happens, the more it's documented. It's just a matter of sort of like mass coming together, and then eventually it will come together and go, oh.
Well, that's it. I mean, proof. I mean, the proof is what everybody is waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
I've discussed this with Adam before. Some of the most compelling testimony I've ever heard about the paranormal, or especially when it comes to UFOs. With the UFOs, it's from astronauts, and when it comes to paranormal testimony, it's from people that are not normally believers in the paranormal. Those are the ones that I usually lean towards, because we know that there's, I'm sure, a large group of people out there that want to believe, and so they are easily swayed by whatever evidence they're provided, whether it be a video or testimony from someone else. And I always like to hear that perspectives from somebody that is not exactly, in the camp of knowing what they're experiencing. They don't automatically believe that spirits are, caught in some kind of a purgatory, and they just need to be absolved of some kind of sin or whatever to move on. Or it's always interesting to me, people like you, Scott, that basically don't know what it is that you saw, why you saw it, why it was there, and what the medium ground is, and because that's a little bit more believable to me, as opposed to somebody that's already willing to accept that there are spirits living among us.
Mm-hmm.
I think the gal in the rocking chair, I truly think it was nothing more that she was lovelorn. She missed her guy. She missed her man. Why did he leave and never come back?
And that's kind of depressing when you think about it, because
it's sad.
Yeah, it is, and you have to.
It's really, and you feel for her. I mean, you guys are
sure.
You guys are good guys. You think this poor woman, what happened? What happened? And other people, and I truly think there's, as people say, well, there's unfinished business. Yeah, somehow they didn't. They didn't have that last chat with mom or dad as they were on the deathbed, or something. And I don't know. I wish I could say, you know what? I completely died. I went over. I crossed over. And what happens is there's this big farm, and we all eat strawberries, and we can. But but
Scott,
I'm not really. And is this all happening in a linear progression, or is it all concurrent and it's happening at the same time, sort of like a 32-track recording studio?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
One track we have jazz, on the other track we have whatever fusion, and on the next track I'm not sure, but I think the more that we talk about it, the more that we don't stigmatize it, the more we'll find out, because it's not. Yeah. It's never anybody that didn't complete crossing over where they came back and said, wow, I had such a great time. I'm coming back here to throw another party and
right.
Congress all. It usually is somebody with unfinished business.
Mm.
And maybe that's where we start. Maybe that's where we begin to look. Maybe that's where, that's the hint that we're not acknowledging.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely lends to the subject of the afterlife, the whole thing about consciousness or awareness or self-awareness, or it kind of adds to that whole argument. What happens to us when we're gone? It's almost like, well, where's your head at when you die? Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? It almost adds that dimension to it. Well, where's your head at when you die? Because if you're in this state of either, you feel that you are in denial about something, or if you do have unfinished business, that's related to relationships that are troubling you or whatever, it's just an interesting perspective when we talk about spirits that have not completely crossed over and they have unfinished business. It makes you think, well, how much does our, consciousness, as far as what we feel is unresolved, how much does that play into what happens to our consciousness in the afterlife? And it's just it's every time we talk about that unfinished business topic, it always is very interesting to me, because you have to wonder, how important does something have to be to prevent a soul from crossing over to a better place? And how does it actually affect their existence in either plane of reality or in the afterlife? How does it really affect them, and how powerful is the mind? Mm-hmm. that it affects actually, where your soul winds up. I mean, when people tell you that they see a soul from the Civil War, or
Yeah.
from medieval times, and then you think to yourself, well, I mean, how long are they damned to kind of roam the earth, not knowing where they're supposed to go or what they have to complete, or or what has to be resolved? And I mean, at that point, once they're a couple of 100 years in, what can they resolve? Everyone that they ever knew when they were alive are dead now. So it's just very interesting dynamic to the whole afterlife.
Right. And, that actually leads me into something, Tom, because we've had obviously guests who've talked about negative energies and negative spirits and so on and so forth. Is that a byproduct potentially? Maybe it's not demonic. Maybe it's a byproduct of just being in that limbo and hanging around. And like you just said, there's no chance or opportunity to close business.
Right.
And maybe you've been stuck here for hundreds of years and
Right.
potentially getting tainted
Yes.
and angered over that.
Yes. Yes. And it's I don't know. And it's hitting me now as we're hearing this in the unresolved business.
Right. I mean, because now, I mean, you could really take this even further from what we were discussing before. If that's the case, there could be people for, 1,000 years still wandering who don't speak your language, and they're in your home or whatever it may be, because the grounds that or where you are or whatever it is, there's no way to possibly communicate with that. And you want to talk about anger, you know?
Do you remember, did you guys see The Shining?
Yes, of course.
Remember the last scene in The Shining, or towards the end, and you see the picture, the group picture, and there's Jack Nicholson in the picture?
Mm-hmm.
His character from whatever, 30, 40, 50 years ago?
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's still, I don't know, unfinished business. Incomplete business. And I guess, what is the moral of the story? Maybe resolve your issues so you can move on. Love everybody to the best of your ability to love. Don't be so judgmental. Don't be a prick. Is all
Yeah.
is all I can think. And I do think a time will come where, I don't know if it was you, Tom, or Adam had asked, will this become the norm? Will there be a consciousness to say, I mean, look at how they used to treat mentally ill people. I mean, still at times it's abominable as to people with mental or emotional issues and how they're treated. But we're so much better now than we were how many years ago, right? So maybe it becomes an issue of the ones that haven't crossed over, that they start getting classified of, he's a non-crossover. He decided he just wanted to keep on carrying that axe around for a millennium. And, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I will tell you this, I am dead sure, and I would bet a year's salary on it, that there are folks that haven't crossed over and they're still here spiritually.
Right.
They're still here, and they won't be until they resolve that issue. And maybe that's the lesson we're all here to learn from it.
Yeah, we've been trying to explore a lot of different angles on this program, Scott. Everything from various religions and points of view as to afterlife and spirituality. We've been trying to discover via our teams that come on, or paranormal investigators that come on, whether we had a guy come on with a family. That was an investigative group, and teens are involved, and listening to those stories and trying to see if perhaps youth being involved in his research had something to do. We have another team that was all women, that came on. So we've been doing our best to try to dig and expose angles where we can as to why some people are open, some aren't, why some areas are hot and some aren't, etc. I mean, it's been quite an exploration, and your story, the death experience and coming back, that really hit listening to that, because I was referring to a guest last week. That guest was my wife. So when you were talking about your experience, it really hit close to home because I've heard, as I referenced earlier, the literally almost the exact same experience through something that she had to get through, and it's pretty unbelievable.
I'm sure she'd like to, because I'm wondering, okay, what if I didn't? What if they didn't zap me with the the defibrillator?
Mm-hmm.
What was further up there? Where did we go? Where
Right.
And what is unresolved in her life? What's unresolved in Scott's life? What's unresolved in Bob or Betty or Jose's? To say, okay, no, we're not ready for you. You go back. You've got to finish something. And that I've often wondered again and again and again. Why didn't I?
That's something there where I don't believe that it's as simple as something personally unresolved. I think in those instances, it's bigger than that. I think it's a mission that you're not even aware of possibly in your life, that you're here to accomplish something, and it simply wasn't your time. If I take that thought process and I look at what just happened this past weekend in our lives here with my wife, her experience was several years ago, and here we are several years later and putting together an event that was raising money to help many people. So at the time when she had her experience, that event wasn't even in our minds. And who knows if potentially this was part of why she was, and for yourself, you may have accomplished things in your life without even realizing it from that point that have touched so many, or perhaps you are aware and you weren't ready. Yeah, it wasn't your time. There was your mission wasn't complete.
Right.
Well, I've thought about it again and again and again and again and again, and I thought,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe you're supposed to be here and just. I like people a lot. I really like being with people. I'm a social bee. I just love being with people. It's funny, my girlfriend and my son's joke, they say you can't ever just talk to somebody. You have to develop a relationship. And I love finding out where did you come from, how did you get here, yada yada yada. And maybe that's what it was for, to help knit people together with other people. And maybe it's just to realize we all, and I really think we all, I think the whole thing of accruing as much money as you can is really, okay, yes, you need money and it does make your life easier, but for me the real winner is love. And I don't want to sound like Peter Pollyanna, but, I'm with a woman now who loves me, just loves me to pieces, and it can't get better.
I think... And I think to get it across to the viewers too, because I know what you're saying. I think a lot of times people, they hear the word love and they don't understand that it just means touching people's lives. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to mean, that you're becoming someone's best friend or you're becoming someone's lover. But when you love other people and you touch their lives and affect their lives, and that's your focus, it's a lot easier to be content, I believe, in life daily when you know that what you're doing is either directly or indirectly helping someone through their day. And we could all do that. I mean, it doesn't take efforts where you have to reach out to.
No, and you're right. And it's not flowers and boxes of chocolates and all that, and just respect. It's the old,
right.
The old adage of do unto others as you want done to you. Treat people nicely. Treat them with respect. Did you ever think? Never mind. I won't go down that
road. Was this going to be another sex ghost story?
Yeah, really.
No.
Scott, let me ask you this. While we have our listeners on, and hopefully they're all in the grips of our extra half hour here that we've added to the show, how do our listeners keep up with you? Do you have any websites? Do you have anything you want to plug right now while you're on with us, so that our listeners can get in touch with you?
No, Tom, that's very, very, very kind of you. you know, it's funny, when I was acting, like, you know, acting,
Yep.
and it didn't hold the same, it didn't hold the quality for me as it did when I was doing theater for 99 people instead of TV for millions of people.
Yeah.
It lost theater in a way. You know, it's that old the old process of passing stories down from one generation to another to another. If we go way back, you know, pre-Greek times,
Yeah.
to be able to convey to others what had happened. And then if we look at the classic modern American playwrights like Odets and O'Neill, and how they were trying to hold a mirror up to society and say, look at what we're like, look at who we are, you know. That was sort of the altruistic, naive disposition I had leaving New York and making that unfortunate sojourn out to California after the accident, and thinking, I'm going to do something good. This is something good. We're going to do great theater, and we're going to show people how they are, and they'll be better people because of it. They'll look and go, oh my God, look at Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman. I don't want to be him. I want to love my kid. And I was so delusional. So getting into investment banking and then getting into renewable and sustainable energy, the fact that we've worked with folks that are converting various forms of garbage, whether it's municipal solid waste or poop, animal poop, human poop, food waste, that we're taking what is perceived as waste and turning into something good has felt so noble for me. And I don't mean to sound egotistical or highfalutin. It just felt like, wow, I'm actually doing something good.
Good.
I'm feeding my kids, and I'm helping the neighborhood. So as far as like promoting anything or anything we're doing, nothing really. We're very active in that sector. We actually formed a syndication company, so we're very active in syndicating shows around the globe as well. And those shows, if those shows were ready to promote and had the websites, I'd say, go there, look at them. And really what I'd like for your listeners is to say to them, take a moment. Look at your brother, look at your sister, look at your friend, look at your lover, look at your husband, your wife, your mother. If we work every day, if I try every day to be the best Scott Valentine that I can, and if I'm working with Tom Ryan and I'm working with Adam Ginsberg, and they're trying to be the best that they can possibly be, we're bound to succeed. It's inevitable that we're going to succeed if we're all trying to be the best people that we possibly can be. And that doesn't mean that you've got to go figure out, how to resolve, how to cure cancer or how to resolve the Middle East conflict. Right. But just treat each other with respect. Listen to each other. A lot of times when people are bitching and moaning, I'm just as guilty. Yes, I'm on my soapbox, so please knock me off because it's very scary up here. But if we could just take a moment to listen to each other. Usually when your son, your daughter, your wife, whomever is screaming at you or upset with you, usually people get to that point because they don't feel that they're heard.
Yeah.
If we just take a moment to hear each other, not that we have to agree, not that we have to be able to fix it, not that we can change it, but a lot of times people just want to know that somebody else cares. They care that they've got, this pussy growth on their back. They care that their car doesn't work. They care that their worker in the cubicle next to them is a pain right in the friggin' butt.
Right.
Just somebody that'll care and listen. And I think that's
the old adage of 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Yeah, definitely, Adam. Without a doubt, brother. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And and I more and more I think, okay, not in the moment, but at times when when we have those quiet moments of reflection, maybe on the toilet, in the shower, in the car at the red light, and go, why didn't I die? Why was I kept? What can I be the best at? Well, you really like people, and you really like finding out people's experiences, and you really like trying to bring people together, and
sure.
Getting that big olive branch, and let's make a big circle with the olive branch and have everybody hold on to it.
Right.
And I think actually, I really wish people could travel more. And I know that's really idyllic. It's naive of me to say that. Who has the money to? Who has the time to? I mean, it's unfortunate. Moms and dads. Mom has to work. Dad has to work. Sometimes mom and dad both have to work 2 jobs just to be able to keep a roof over their head and food on the table. And it really sucks as to what is happening to the working man and working woman and families in America. But maybe if they knew there was somebody there that listened, that cared.
Get out and see the world a little bit, yeah.
To travel, I'm sorry, that was my point. I got lost.
Right,
Thank
right. No, I know what you're saying. I know what your point is, yeah. Get up and see the world.
Go over to, look, there are some folks that I work with that are from Afghanistan. Some very brilliant engineers from Afghanistan. It's almost like the drain of all the brain power from Germany in World War II, because Hitler was such a knucklehead asshole. Fuck it, I'm out of here. I don't want to be around him. Well, it's so volatile over there. These folks have left, and they're great people. They're wonderful folks.
Yeah.
And all they want to do is love and laugh and be fed. And I'll do this for a job and make money, but I really want to be. And if everybody could see, the guy in Afghanistan, the guy in Singapore, the guy in Brazil, the other guy, everybody wants the same thing, and we're all the same. Whether we're Republican or Democratic or Libertarian or whatever, we're all the goddamn same.
You're right.
So stop, competing and stop saying I'm better than or whatever. But it's another thing to look at. It's another intriguing thing. As I'm sitting here talking to you guys, and the football game's on in the back, in my office here.
Well, at least somebody's getting to watch a football game. I'm sitting here listening to some hippie telling me to love the whole world. Listen, Scott. Listen, I don't want to cut you off, Scott, but you've been a great guest. We got to wrap it up. We only have a few minutes left. You have been an awesome guest. Definitely want to have you on the show again. And great perspective on your experiences. And like I've always said, I love to have guys on that are not just ghost worshippers, that actually have a little bit of denial and are just kind of trying to figure out what's going on. But thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing your stories with us and chatting with us tonight. We really appreciate it.
I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't, it's the old adage, the more you know you don't know. So.
Listen, man, listen to our show every week, and hopefully you'll get there someday, because that's what we're trying to do.
Adam, thank you kindly for your time and your graciousness. Tom, thank you kindly for your time and your graciousness, and I'm very appreciative. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, you guys too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good stuff. I'm going to roll right into it, Tom. I know we're pressed.
Let's do it,
Do you
brother.
ever feel like you're not alone? Do you ever feel like someone or something is near you? Have you felt touched or that something has brushed up against you? Do you hear voices? Do you have vivid dreams of dead loved ones? Do you see shadow people? What are they? Who are they? An angel or a demon? Or just someone reaching out? We believe someone or something is reaching out. We want to tell the world the truth. Our experiences are not a figment of our imagination. There are things that walk the earth that are unknown to us. We want to find out what they are. We want to share it with all of you. And so do they. We want to tell our stories and their stories. We are True Ghost Stories. Tune in next time. We have incredible guests here in store for you. And listen to the horrifically talented duo of myself, Adam Ginsberg, and of course, the illustrious Tom Ryan. Have a great week, everybody, and a great night. Happy ghost hunting.
Happy ghost.
He sees the joining road. He doesn't see the stop sign there. No time to turn away. The ravens perched up on that wreck, yelling, I warn you of this day. In the shadows of the night, you can run. You can hide in the shadows of the night. There's no time, no time you can buy. No. Well, kick it stay alive. Dealing and stealing, cheating and killing, no good ways to lie. Begging and bleeding, barely just breathing, the end of the road is near. The end of the road is near. Tell me, what do you fear?
It's Shadow of the Night by Ronnie Barr. Thank you, True Ghost Stories. Listen to us next Monday, and good night.